I'm Taiwanese. And they were like, but your country name is like Chinese. Are you Chinese Taipei? Like, no. So like, yeah, I'm a lesbian.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Have you dated men before? And I'm like, it's not your business. Have you been governed by PRC before? It's not your business.
Welcome to Taiwan Plus After Hours. We're going to explore Taiwan through Taiwan Plus colleagues after hours. I remember going back to what you were talking about, like in terms of like the sense of pride that Taiwanese people have when same-sex marriage was passed. I remember, I think it was, we actually were at the same Pride rally in New York. I think it was 2016. I think it was 2016?
2016.
The one that like was heavily delayed. 2016. It just passed that year. The Dafaguan.
Yeah, the constitutional ruling.
The
it's
constitutional
2017.
Ruling. It was 2017.
Yeah.
I remember like it was a shared experience because we were both there. We found out much later, but it was first I was delayed like 3 or 4 hours before we started leaving.
Yeah.
But then by the time, remember, we got to like, I think it was West Village. Got to West Village, and then it was dark already, and everyone was, honestly, I think everyone was already super tired
and drunk.
Yes. But everyone was. It was just like, it was one thing to march just as like a group of Taiwanese marching together. But the streets, it was just roaring with cheers for Taiwan, and it felt empowering.
Yeah.
And I sometimes when I think about it, I feel like maybe I'll sometimes feel a little bit bad because I'll be like, oh well, I'm not part of the LGBTQ community, but I'm just like, maybe I feel bad for like writing this sense, but I'm like, I don't know if this still feels great, you know?
Yeah.
So like, what was it like for you when you were there?
I found it very cheesy from time to time because I've been like walking in pride marches so many times in so many different cities, but every time seeing people, like random people, cheering for you simply because your country did something good to the community, I'm always like moved and touched and bursted into tears. And I remember in 2018, I was studying in London, so I was also in the London Pride parade. And my roommate, a British girl, she was drunk with her friends on the streets, and she said when she saw our rallies go by, she was screaming, yelling, and crying like, "Oh, that's my roommate! I feel so proud of her. You know, Taiwan legalized same-sex marriage." And I was like, why? But then it's funny, and she's even straight, you know.
Yeah.
And she was like, "I'm so proud. I feel so proud." I'm like, okay, it's nice to, make your day, but like, why you are so happy? And then I realized people know how difficult to be a Taiwanese, and people know how difficult to be an LGBT person in a society still. So there's this crossover places. Easily you can communicate that feeling across the land, across the culture, across the borders. And I think this same very different feeling also communicate very well within our own society. So although someone is straight and throughout their lives they didn't know anyone from the LGBT community, when it comes to communicating this special point like the identity and also how difficult it is to say where I came from and I'm here, please acknowledge my existence. I think this shared experiences always brings emotions and compassions. So a lot of my friends, like straight friends, they never feel proud overseas when talking about their identity. But after like Taiwan legalized same-sex marriage, they were like, "Yeah, I'm from Taiwan. I'm so proud." And it's nice to bring more allies together. It's also funny to see how touched and encouraged they are. So yeah, I think that's also why I feel like joining TaiwanPlus, telling the story from Taiwan is also something that echoes with my faith and understanding, because I know how precious this experience is and how precious, like simply being a Taiwanese is the queerest country in the world, and I'm very proud of that.
I had a metaphor for some people in the past. Like when I was doing some of my workshops, people were asking about like the Taiwanese identity. I stopped using it because I wasn't sure if it was appropriate.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try it here and let me know what you think. And
Yeah.
I'm still not gonna use it because again, you're one person, you're not representing the
Yeah,
entire
yeah, yeah.
community. So I've also said I was like, saying identify as Taiwanese is something that gets questioned. And it's
Yeah.
like of all the nationalities and identities, it's the
Yeah.
only one that gets questioned. Like I could probably tell someone like I'm Lebanese, and they'll
Yeah.
probably be like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Tell me more."
Yeah.
They won't ask you like, "Are you sure?" But if you go to Taiwanese, they'll be like, "Oh, so you're Chinese?" Like, "Are you sure you're not Chinese?"
Yeah.
And then I bring up the example of like it would be as imagine someone was like, "Oh, I'm gay," and someone goes like, "Are you sure you're gay?"
Yeah, you have to prove like
Yeah,
how
yeah,
gay
prove-
you
prove
are.
me.
And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
what do you mean?
is that a fair comparison, or is that like,
Yeah,
what do you think?
I think to me it's a fair comparison. Not just being gay, like being trans or being bisexual.
Whatever identity it is,
Yeah,
really, yeah.
If you are not straight and cisgendered, you will be questioned. Like, yeah, prove.
Imagine
Prove
someone
it.
goes like, "Yeah, I'm straight. Are you sure you're straight? Prove
Yeah.
how straight you are."
Yeah, and like it's very weird. And so yeah, like saying like, oh, I'm Taiwanese, and they were like, but your country name is like Chinese. Are you Chinese Taipei? Like no. So like, yeah, I'm a lesbian. Are you sure? Have you dated men before? And I'm like, it's not your business. Have you been governed by PRC before? It's not your business. I didn't pay tax to them. Yeah. So I think that is a very interesting metaphor. Not sure if you can use it every time.
I'll probably stay away from that.
Yeah, but for me, it's a metaphor that I always use because, yeah, I've lived with this situation throughout my life, and I think it's the easiest way to communicate. And also, I think when it comes to China-Taiwan issue, the younger generation, like Westerners, they have this compassion or like they feel for the Chinese people, like they grew up knowing like the left or they have feelings for the socialist. I think it's fine, but they didn't know how crazy the Chinese government is when it comes to China-Taiwan issues, and how difficult for us to just simply being us. So every time trying to tell them the Taiwan side of the stories when it comes to the cross-strait issues, I would definitely bring up LGBT issues just to easily like communicate that very difficult context, because it's very difficult for people to think about why you are not a country, but you said you are a country, but what is that? And so this queer situation for me, it's very interesting, and sometimes I feel very like discouraged or feel disappointed still. But I think this communication can continue to grow if we continue to speak up for ourselves, advocate for ourselves.
I mean, there's still multiple hurdles, like you said before. Like people think that legalizing same-sex marriage is, oh yeah, we're there, check,
Yeah,
end of the list,
done.
and we're done. But
Yeah.
in actuality, like there's international different nations marriages that's still not allowed.
Yeah.
Adoption of
Yeah.
children are still not allowed. There's so many. Like, so where do you see, I guess, Taiwan's LGBTQ movement
Yeah.
moving forward?
Yeah, I
Or what are
think
your hopes?
I think the transnational same-sex marriage is definitely something that needs to be legalized as soon as possible. And now, like the borders, the bans of traveling has been lifted, and people are, restarting to travel the world, meeting other peoples. It's very difficult, especially if you are a Taiwanese and you are dating someone from Japan, you're never going to get married simply because Japan didn't legalize that. And even though you went to the US to get married, your marriage is not legal in Taiwan.
It's not recognized here.
Yeah, so it's very weird situation, and that's already been challenged in court, and I think
There's one successful case, right?
I think now there's more than one.
There's more than one, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that would be something to, be amended in the future, and adoption as well. although the birth rate in Taiwan is crazy low. Yeah, but there are like annually there are lots of kids waiting to be adopted, but it's and now being single in Taiwan, you can go apply for adoption. But if you are married with a same-sex person, you have no
Really?
rights. Yeah, so this is a very discriminative law and regulations against same-sex couple. So this has been challenged, and hopefully it will be amended in the very close future. And I think I'm not very confident, but I think in the next few years, the transgender issues will become one of the like major issues within the community and also within the Taiwanese society. People will start this conversation about changing your sex on the birth certificate and how that would be more flexible, not flexible, but like
there's a way to change it at the very least.
yeah, and like how people understand the change of sex. And I think that will be another very difficult but worth it definitely, yeah, it's going to be a very difficult conversation, but I think it will happen like very soon, sometime in the future. And also in general, I think the workplace equality is also something very dear to a lot of people's daily life. Not just LGBT acceptance in the workplace, but also the women's like what is the glass ceiling?
The glass ceiling,
Yeah, so I think that will also be challenged. And nowadays, people are talking about ESG so much. I think gender equality will also be a huge topic when it comes to sustainability.